Hi, I'm John Maxwell. When the top companies in the world are looking for trainers, speakers, and coaches, there's one name that stands above the rest, and that's Maxwell Leadership. Our certified team members have gotten proven results for companies all over the globe, and our reputation, I'm proud to say, is second to none. Some of our members have risen to the top of their profession, including the one you're going to meet today. I proudly introduce you to my friend Bob Fabian Zinka.
Welcome to the Leadership and Success Podcast with your host, Coach BZ, where we help you lead with purpose and succeed with impact. If you're ready to grow into the kind of leader others want to follow, this podcast is for you. If you're determined to elevate your success and leave a lasting legacy, this podcast is for you. As my mentor, Dr. John C. Maxwell reminds us, everything rises and falls on leadership. Our goal is simple: to inspire you, challenge you, and equip you with insights that can transform the trajectory of your leadership journey. Welcome aboard to another episode of the Leadership and Success Podcast with Coach BZ.
You can never communicate too much why we're here and why we're doing what we're doing. And if you're insincere in that communication, then they're going to detect that a mile away. You've got to really understand yourself why we're here, why we're doing what we're doing, and you've got to believe in it. And if you don't, then you probably shouldn't be there. No one ever wants to talk about morality. If I go to a bunch of sailors, a bunch of soldiers, and I say, gentlemen and ladies, I'm here to talk about morality, they're all going to just, their eyes are going to roll. Tell me how to be disciplined. Tell me how to be industrious. Tell me how to be productive. Tell me how to be self-obedient. Isn't it valuable sometimes to be angry? Like, wouldn't that make you better at fighting or better at handling a situation that you should handle appropriately? Like, if someone is threatening my family or someone is threatening my organization, shouldn't I be angry about that? And I would say, absolutely.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us for another episode of the Leadership and Success Podcast. I am really glad you are here, and we have a very, very special guest for you. I am really excited about this. And before I introduce him, just to remind everyone, so our moment of gratitude, which we do every time we meet. An earlier episode today, I was saying that I'm really grateful to be alive in 2026. Today is only the fourth day of this brand new calendar year, and I really look forward to everything we are going to be able to accomplish this year. I know 2025 was pretty tough for a lot of people, but I think things are getting better, and I do believe that our country, America, will get back on track. And it is really a blessing to be an American and to live in this country, right? The home of the brave and the land of the free. So I'm so grateful for that. All right. Let us know what you are grateful for. Please type it in the comment, and also let us know where you are joining us from, what city and if you're outside of the US, which country? And also, if you have a question for our guest, Commander Spears, please go ahead and type it in the comment, and we are going to answer live. Okay, let me try my best here to introduce our guest. So, Commander William C. Spears, U.S. Navy, is a Navy submarine warfare officer. I think there's always, I don't know, I know I couldn't do it. I couldn't be a submarine officer. There is just no way. It's so small. I mean, you've got. We need people to do it for sure. Kind of like the Marines to me. Someone has to do it, but this is just not me. But anyway, he has served as an executive officer of a ballistic missile submarine, and now he works at the Pentagon in the Office of the Secretary of Defense. So he's also a respected military thinker and the author of Stoicism as a warrior philosophy. We're definitely going to be talking about this insight on the morality of military service. So, Will represent the rare warrior philosopher, a leader who understands that command is not just operational, but also deeply moral. So, what I think we're going to be covering today is why command is a moral act, not just a positional one, and how Stoicism applies to modern leadership, war, and decision making. What leaders must retain when operating under hierarchy and pressure, but also how to lead with discipline, integrity, and conscience in gray zone. So I really believe this is going to add a lot of value for you, whether you are a junior naval officer enlisted or a member of the tech community here in Silicon Valley. All right. So without any further ado, would you please help me welcome to the Leadership and Success Podcast, the one and only Commander William Spears.
All right, BZ. Hey, thanks a lot for that intro, and I'm really grateful to be here, man.
Yeah, we are really excited to have you here. Maybe just to get started, what is something that you are grateful for today?
Man, that is an incredibly deep question. So you did warn me about it, but it's kind of almost impossible to try to answer it without it sounding trite,
Yes.
But let's just pick one thing. Okay, let's pick air conditioning,
Yes.
and
Yes.
I mean, if you look at all of human history and the amount of human history for which, air conditioning has been available and how
Yes.
much that impacts quality of life and
Mm.
the ability to live and the ability to think and the ability to,
Yes.
operate in certain climates and everything. And that then the point isn't air conditioning. The point is that that's
Yes.
just one little tiny thing of all the things that are around us. We live in
Mm.
palaces relative to the way that
That
people
is so
use the world.
true. Although there are places, I don't know if you've been at the Naval War, the Naval Postgraduate School yet in Monterey, for example, because it's usually temperate weather, they don't have air conditioning there. They have heater, but they don't have air conditioning. So very few times doesn't happen often. It gets pretty cold, and now they have this Indian summer and all of that. But those days, I really wish my home there would have had air conditioning. But again, for the most part, the weather is always very nice and it is really great. But also my background, where I come from originally, the Congo, there definitely the majority of the people there don't have air conditioning in their home. Like even just running, drinking clean water, right? And that's a big problem. Whereas in America, pretty much, everywhere you go, you can trust the
Absolutely
water you are
take it for
drinking.
granted.
Yeah, we take so much for granted. That is so true. But of course, my two kids who are American born and raised here, sometimes I wish, well, maybe I should send you guys to Mexico, some third world country, just for like a week or two. And when you come back to America, I think you are going to kiss the ground. But yeah, you are true. Air conditioning may sound like, oh, maybe it's not such a big deal, but it actually could be a very big deal for a lot of people still in 2025 on Earth today. So anyway, thank you so much for sharing that. Is there maybe something about you that most people may not know about when they first meet you?
Well, uh, I'm from Louisiana. I think that I'm probably the worst example of a country boy you could imagine.
Maybe,
I'm from small town Louisiana. Is my
are
background.
you into college football at all?
I'm not. I'm like the only one from Louisiana who's not particularly
Okay.
into college football.
Because I live in Tuscaloosa, Alabama for like 15 years, and
Yeah.
over there's like God, football, and everything else.
Yeah, it is
And,
a religion there.
I'm sure the name Nick Saban, I guess you guys call him Nick Satan now, means something to you, doesn't it? But
Yeah.
Anyway, I remember I was a student at the UA when Nick Saban left Louisiana to join UA, and they said he was a traitor and all kinds of things. But anyway, he's I guess the second Bear Bryant is earned us a lot of championships, so Alabama loves it. But anyway, that's not either there. But at least you root for the U.S. Navy against the Army, right? I think the Navy just won by one point, I believe.
Yeah, it was a
Um,
good game.
yeah, that was a
That's a
pretty good
close one.
game. I guess a win is a win, right? Even if it's only by 1 point. Every time I have a soldier here, I give him a hard time about the Navy and Army football game. But anyway, maybe you can give us briefly kind of like your leadership journey, how you got to become Commander William C. Spears, U.S. Navy, especially a submariner. That's something.
Sure. I enlisted in the Navy right after graduating high school, and I went into Navy nuclear power program,
Wow.
and I trained as a nuclear electrician. So basically, a technician to be, destined for nuclear powered ships.
Hmm.
Before I ever made it to a ship, I immediately applied to every officer program I could, and I got accepted by the Naval Academy. They were the ones that called back, and then
And
so
what was your last enlisted rank?
an E4, a petty officer third
Ah,
class.
oh,
Yeah.
me too. Cool.
Yeah. So I went to the Naval Academy prep school for a year, and then on to the academy. And then I wanted to go back into submarines from there, or in the nuclear
Yes.
power world. And I got attracted to submarines while I was enlisted in the nuclear power school curriculum there. And so I went back into that. I majored in mechanical engineering
Uh,
in order to facilitate that. And
yes.
then basically did a submarine career from there. And so
Wow.
I started off on a fast attack submarine out of Guam, and then I went to Naval Postgraduate School for shore duty, and then did a tour as a department head as the weapons officer of another
Yes.
attack submarine, that one out of Pearl Harbor.
Wow.
Yeah, and then it's been the career since then. It's been a wonderful career.
That is really, really amazing. I must tell you, the first time I was deployed, actually, it was a big deck. They ran out of space, in officers' country, so they got me where they kept the enlisted Marines. So they had those beds kind of, on top of each other, like I think four in a row, and I was kind of like in the middle bed, and I couldn't sleep that first night. I was like, man, I feel like I'm in a casket or something. I can't breathe. I mean, but as you know, when you are deployed, is 24/7, eye temper and all of that. Eventually, my body just got tired, and I got used to it. But I can't just imagine being on a small submarine ship for like more than a day. It's like, how do you guys do it?
You get used to anything. You
Wow,
know, you
you've got
stay
to be
busy.
crazy.
The main trick of it is that you just got so much to do that you don't have
Yes,
time to think about like, oh man, I'd really like to go outside. Like,
man.
you're not going outside.
That's crazy.
You know?
Because I am pretty sure the entire Navy suffers because of you. Because I know when you go to boot camp, right, they're pretty in all about how you keep everything clean, everything in its place, and all of that. Said doing your bed and all of that. I think it's just training to be a submariner, isn't it?
Yeah, probably. I mean,
Yeah,
there's not a lot of place to stick stuff. So you don't you
yeah,
don't you don't bring a lot of junk with you underway, because you don't know where
yes.
to put it. It's gonna
That's
be in your rack with you.
well. I am very, very grateful for people like you who can do that because I just can't. I mean, there is just no way. So, like me, you began your Navy journey as an enlisted sailor. I didn't know you were a petty officer third class before accepting your
Third class.
commission.
Third
Oh,
class.
third class, yes.
Yeah.
E4. I did the same thing. So, how did that experience being enlisted kind of shape the kind of officer and leader you eventually became? You think?
I think it had the most effect as a junior officer,
Hmm.
and after you've been in for a while, the differences kind of smooth out and even out between everyone. But as a junior officer, I said I think I was a lot more sensitive to a lot of the perceptions of the enlisted guys,
Hmm.
and that there's a lot of things that of the officer enlisted dynamic that can be kind of taken offensively
Yes.
by enlisted guys sometimes, and especially if the officers are just blind to it. And a lot of
Hmm.
junior officers will be really, really blind to certain things and not realize how
Yes.
classist certain things look or
Hmm.
appear. and being sensitive to those things. Like a good example is kind of in the wardroom.
Yes.
You eat the same food, the crew eats the same food, but the
Yes.
officers, you sit down in a wardroom and it gets served
Mm-hmm.
to you by the culinary specialist. They come out
Yes.
and kind of emphasizing to the other officers, like, hey, these guys, they're not servants. Okay, they're not
Mm-hmm.
doing this because you've got some kind of moral worth. These
Yes.
guys are skilled tradesmen, and they're exercising
Mm-hmm.
a skill. And so whenever
Yes.
they hand the plate, they set the plate on the table a certain way. They're trained to do that, and
Yes.
they've got to entertain dignitaries and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Your ship might be a place where diplomacy is happening and stuff.
Yes.
Like, this stuff
Yes.
is important, and this stuff
Yes.
is a skill, and you need to respect it as such. And
Absolutely.
basically kind of emphasizing that with that throughout the wardroom, and
Mm-hmm.
letting that kind of perception color the other ways of interacting with the
Yes.
crew. And one of the things I kind of tell junior officers now is, if this were a story, or if this were a narrative of some sort, the officers, we're
Mm-hmm.
not the main characters here.
Yes.
We're not interesting.
Yes.
Like if you look at, like, everyone's diverse and
Yes.
everyone's got their cool background story and everything. Like, if the officers, like, our background stories, there's a lot less variation there.
True. True.
We're more broadly, there are exceptions, but we're more
Mm-hmm.
broadly kind of similar socioeconomic
Yes.
backgrounds and stuff like that. Like, what's the
Yes.
main thing that distinguishes the officers
Mm-hmm.
is the education. But there's
Yes.
nothing magical that happened whenever I
Yes.
went from being an enlisted guy, and then I encounter Shakespeare and differential equations. Like, that doesn't,
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm still the same dude.
Yes. Yes.
You know? So I
Wow.
think the sensitivity to that was affected my kind of perceptions and interactions with the crew.
That is really, really powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Quite insightful. What about the chiefs, which I really believe they do run the Navy? They truly are the anchor, E7, E8, and E9. Me, no, having started as an E1, which I am assuming you at least have one good conduct medal, which officers
That's
don't
right.
get, but enlisted don't also, yeah. That's probably one of my favorite medal when I look at everything I've earned so far. But anyway, how do you think people who come right out of the academy? I'm sure maybe they have some training because technically the chiefs, they still mentor junior officer, ensign, lieutenant, JG, and lieutenant. Most of my career, I think I've seen most officers, most CEOs and XO have treated their chief just right. But there was just one commanding officer I had. He really was very, very bad at it, and I didn't understand why. Because those chiefs, they really have a lot of knowledge and experience, and I think that's really in my opinion, the difference between our Navy and all of the navies from most other countries, right? Because in other countries, like in Russia, for example, if you get rid of all of their general, I mean, they're going to be completely lost. They wouldn't know what to do, what to go have a mission. Where in the U.S. Navy, I feel like you can get rid of all of our general, our chiefs. They're still going to be able to do the job and accomplish the mission. But anyway, have you not noticed anything different on our JO, especially those coming straight from the academy, interact with senior enlisted?
I don't think so. I think that, I know during the academy experience, we were often taught, like, hey, you need to rely on your chief. You need to listen to your chiefs.
Good.
It's almost to a degree that I think may be a little bit dangerous if we set the expectations too high, because you may build junior officers who are not necessarily equipped to identify or recognize if their chief is wrong.
Yes.
Or it kind of almost becomes that junior officer has arrived when they have developed the level of maturity to kind of recognize, like, hey, chief, understand your recommendation, we're going to do this instead. But I honestly, in my career, it really wasn't until I was a department head that the chief really I came to rely on them so much in my officer duties. So, I'm sure it's the same way on surface ships to an extent, but as a junior officer, it's a lot more a lot of where you're doing the leadership is kind of as a watch officer, leading the watch team, or in the reactor plant, or conning the ship around. And then, but as managing the division that was a lot more of a solitary endeavor and kind of
Yes.
as an assistant to my department head. It was when I was a department head, trying to, getting my butt handed to me every day by
Yes.
just the job and the level of responsibility. And that was whenever my chiefs really were, saved my butt a
Yeah.
lot. And I
The
really, I really, and a lot of times,
yes.
whenever I would say something and they would pull me aside and say like, "Hey, sir, I wouldn't have said that if I were
Yes.
you." And like, you know what? You're right. That was a dumb thing to say. I shouldn't have said
Yes.
that. And thank goodness that they would tell me such things and I could get better, and
Yes. Truly the anchor for the Navy. I am so grateful for my chiefs. That's why, uh, I think my chiefs, they really helped me out, from E1 to E4 and then O1 through O4. So when I became a senior officer, I'm like, well, I still need to be mentored by this chief because they really know what they are doing, or at least listen to them very seriously and consider everything they say, because they definitely know how to take care of the white hats and all of the enlisted folks, make sure everything is going according to plan and everybody is taken care of. So let me ask you this about being in a sub. Was because you've served in some of the most demanding Navy environment. So what did submarines teach you about yourself that no classroom ever could?
Well, in the classroom, you can it's ultimately still a solitary endeavor. You've got group projects here and there, and you got to study
Mhm.
together and all that. And that's just kind of a surface that's barely scratches the surface of the level of interdependence that you
Mhm.
experience once you get to a ship. Ultimately, in the classroom, you're still your work ethic can get you through the day, and you can study and ultimately overcome it and gut it out and as an individual. And then once you get to the ship, like, that does not work anymore. It is
Yes.
not about you anymore, and it is absolutely about your ability to leverage the intellectual firepower of the people around you.
Mhm.
And I'd say that, that's like the primary lesson. There's a couple
Yes.
other things. One of them is kind of sleep deprivation will make you dumb. you know,
Mm.
be able
Yes.
to reach that level of exhaustion where you're like, I cannot think straight right now, and I
Yes.
don't even know my left from right now. You know, and the kind of the other thing is the degree to which being in an emotional state, being upset, angry,
Mhm.
or embarrassed or whatever, all those kinds of things, how much those can affect your decision making ability. And you
Mm.
experience such things whenever you're in the stress of a shipboard environment to a degree that I never like approached in the
Yes.
classroom. And the conflation or the combination of those emotional states and the exhaustion
Mhm.
states with having to make decisions and think thoughts and give orders of very high
Mm.
consequence, and seeing how those things come together, I think
Yes.
was very important in leadership development, and recognizing how, okay, we need to keep our emotions in check. We need to make sure that we're
Mhm.
rested, or
Yes.
otherwise we're not going to be safe, and how those things play
Mm.
together.
So insightful. Really, from my opinion, the Navy, but looks like all of the other branches of the military too. We really are leadership organization, and we just happen to have a bunch of hardware. Now, you as an executive officer for a ballistic missile submarine, what kind of was your leadership philosophy when it came to not just leading your mission, but also the men and women who were assigned to your command?
Well, I mean, there are a lot of elements of that philosophy. One of them, I think, is that you can never communicate too much,
Yes.
and if I had to repeat the same message over and over and over again,
Hmm.
that I'm probably doing just right.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
you can't repeat the thing too much. And generally trying to, as an XO, you're organizing the day and the plan, and where, when we're doing what
Hmm.
is kind of the XO's bailiwick. And so it was very important to me to be efficient and not waste time,
Yes.
not have unnecessary meetings, and keep the trains on the track and the trains running
Mm.
on time, because that has all these kind of follow-on effects in terms of
Yes.
morale and people's ability to plan their day. And sailors, do not mind hard work.
Hmm.
They will move a mountain for you if they
Yes.
think it's productive and it's useful and it's appropriate, but they cannot stand having their time wasted.
Yes.
And it's
Yes.
a very disrespectful thing to waste
Hmm.
people's time. They will take that personally if you don't appear
Yes.
to value their time. And so making it clear that
Mm,
I value their time and I want their time to be used appropriately.
yes.
And there's a consistency there and a believability whenever I frame it as, it's not just because I care about you, it's because I care
Mhm.
about your productivity, because I care about the ship. I do
Yes.
not want to waste your
Yes.
time. And the sailors say, yes, thank you. Thank goodness. We
Wow.
agree. And like, so that I think shaped
Wow.
my leadership philosophy a lot.
No, that is really key because it just shows respect, and everybody will definitely appreciate that. Now, for those who are watching who are not in the military, so when I say executive officer, we also call that XO. Basically, that's the second person in charge of the entire submarine or command or unit. So that's a very, very big deal, especially on a sub. You really operate right at the center of strategic deterrence with all of America's enemies wherever you guys are deployed, and it's top secret. But how does one mentally and morally carry the weight of missions whose consequences could be existential? How did you do that?
Well, the strategic mission is a very serious and very kind of somber mission, and until you're involved in it, there's kind of this veil of unreality to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's because I went through a couple of tours as a fast attack sailor and never was on a ballistic missile submarine, so I didn't really have that kind of exposure to the strategic mission, the strategic deterrence side of things. And up until I was involved in it, it kind of always was in my head as like this big red button. And it's just like, what's the
Mm-hmm.
big deal? It's the big red end the world button. Just don't press it. Why,
Yes.
why, why is that hard? Well, there's this veil of unreality. Well, whenever you're right in the middle of it, it's very, very real,
Mm.
and it's very, very serious. And the people who
Yes.
are involved in it, the professionals that are involved in that mission, take it very, very seriously,
Mm-hmm.
and they need to. And it's an extremely serious deal.
Yes.
And so some people will say like, okay, well, we've got all these weapons, but we're never really going to use them. Right. And it's like,
Mm.
that's what in the nuclear power world we call a gross concept error.
Yes.
The weapons are used every single day that they shape the decision space of the Vladimir Putins and the Xi Jinpings of the world.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Every day that those guys have to, weigh in their calculus and their
Yeah.
boundaries of behavior have to weigh
Yeah.
in that you've got this strategic enterprise.
Yes. Not today. Maybe tomorrow, but not
Not
today.
today, you know,
Yes.
that is in use, and it is, and no, it's not satisfying, and yes, it is
Mm.
paradoxical, but
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it does make us a lot safer, and there's a lot of
Yes.
stability, a geopolitical stability that follows from these things, and
Mm.
it is an imperfect and paradoxical system. I'm sorry, but it has
Yes.
been for 50 years or 70 years or wherever you want to draw the line.
Yeah.
But it's a very somber and important mission.
Mm.
And I think an important part, I'm a moralist. I think through the moral stuff, and that's
Yes.
not everyone. A lot of people just like, oh, I'm gonna just focus on the job,
Mhm.
but if someone tells me, oh, don't really think about it, then I'm like, oh, well, I'm definitely gonna think about it now, you
Yes.
know.
Me too.
But once I got kind of into on the inside of the curtain of going
Yes.
through, understanding the targeting process, understanding the planning,
Mhm.
strategic planning, and the authorization processes, and
Yes.
how well developed and how seriously those things are taken.
Yeah, all of the
I
safeguards. It's incredible.
Yeah, and having that knowledge, now I have the confidence that if I
Mhm.
receive a valid and authentic order, I
Yeah.
know confidently it is the right thing to do to follow it.
Yes.
And that is an important part of the
Mm.
development of a leader in the strategic mission. So
Yeah.
but I definitely am thinking about the moral questions there, because
Yes.
they do weigh on me. They're important. And it's important that people
So
think about
true.
these things.
Yeah, but because many leaders, even here in Silicon Valley in tech, they talk about accountability. But really, what I think people outside of the Navy or the military don't understand is really, like you say, it could be a matter of life or death. I mean, this is very, very serious business, right? So really few people really live accountability at the level that you did. So how do you define responsibility when mistakes are not survivable, when it could mean the end of not just you, but your entire crew?
Well, I think that interdependence of the crew and the stakes that are on a submarine that the submarine world has to deal with are really
Hmm.
one of the strengths that creates the culture that generally submariners like and want to come back to.
Yes.
And the degree of seriousness of any kind of casualty,
Mm.
the degree of interdependence of how much every human on that ship needs to know exactly what to do and where to go and
Yes.
how to follow their procedures if there is an emergency. I think that that level of interdependence creates a sense of self, of value, and
Hmm.
like when I have a new sailor that is struggling to adapt and they're not learning, they're not fitting in, they're struggling, they're thinking about trying to quit
Hmm.
and how they can get out of it and everything. What I want to do is get that guy qualified as soon as possible and
Yes.
standing watch and doing stuff where he's feeling other people depend on him. And especially
Mm.
if I can get him to the point where he's teaching other people, they'll
Yes.
start to see, they'll start to recognize their own value and their own
Mm.
importance and how much everyone else is depending on them, how much
Wow.
it's going to hurt if they leave.
Yes.
you know
That is
and
powerful. Yeah.
it doesn't always work,
Hmm.
but it works more often than not. It
Yes.
definitely, I think, is one of the strengths that we have, is that level of interdependence.
Yeah, I guess as the commanding officer, the executive officer, sometimes you kind of have to weigh in, right? You do have a mission to accomplish; it has to be accomplished. That's a priority, but you also want to take care of your people, and sometimes, you know, so people, even some of the best people you have, for whatever reason, they may say, "No, I don't really want to stay. I want to do something else." So you still have to respect that, right? But I guess the question I have for you: how do you balance? No, we say mission first, people always. Yeah, that is true. But sometimes, no, there might be like a conflict between the mission, what you need right now, and then what some of your members of your crew may need individually. How do you go about handling it for the best, I guess we do everything for the best of the need, but also making sure that you truly care about your sellers too.
Well, you recognize, I think it's important to call out and basically to articulate that
Hmm.
if we're not accomplishing our mission, it's going to suck for
Yes.
everyone. Everyone's quality of life will suffer if we're not able to, if we're failing our inspections, if we're unable
Hmm.
to get the ship underway, if we're unable to keep to the schedule of our own fault. Such
Yes.
things are going to summon a lot of help to our
Mm.
ship, and that's going to make everyone miserable, and it's going to make everyone, whatever quality of life we might have been preserving,
Yes. Yes.
is going to plummet. And I think there's a lot of value in kind of articulating that,
Hmm.
because the crew knows you care about the mission. Okay,
Yes.
they don't need to be told you care about the mission. And
Good.
everyone says we care about the sailor, but the sailors, do they believe that? But if I
Hmm.
can point out where the consistencies, where taking
Yes.
care of I recognize that taking care of the
Mm.
sailor supports the mission, and taking care of the mission supports the sailors. That's
Yes.
believable. Okay.
Mm.
That is not going to set off everyone's BS detectors
Yes.
to the same
Yes.
degree that me saying like, oh, we're all a family, or some idiotic thing like
Yes,
that.
yes.
You know,
Wow. That is really insightful. Now, for the junior officer who are listening right now, who aspire to command, in your experience, what do you think is the most misunderstood aspect of command?
well, the first thing I have to say is, like, I have not had command,
Well,
so to speak.
EXO.
I have not been in command, but as I have moved up in rank, I have observed of myself in my own personal experience and of my COs. I think a huge misunderstanding is the idea that you stop making mistakes. Like, there's this trope that, like, oh, as a junior officer, you can just nod your head and you're going to make all these mistakes and everyone's going to be forgiving of it. And then, as you move up, you don't make mistakes
Mhm.
anymore, because
Yes.
obviously you'll just be fired, and the COs don't make any mistakes, the XOs don't make that is totally, like, backwards.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So what happens is, as you move up, more and more of what you're doing is making decisions. Okay.
Mm.
As a junior officer, you're doing a lot of studying and everything, and you're managing
Yes.
paperwork, your department head, you're planning, but the percentage of your time that is spent making decisions, just get like a greater portion of your 24 hours of a day
Yes.
it becomes devoted to decisions as you move up. And when I go from making, one decision of consequence a day to 10 decisions of consequence a day to 100,
Yeah.
I'm going to make more mistakes. It's just a
Mhm.
fact. It's just statistically the fact that I'm
Yes.
going to make a ton of mistakes as an XO and as a CO. Maybe not
Mhm.
grave ones that,
Yes.
would hazard the ship, that I would be removed very quickly in that event. But,
Yes.
just interactions of day to day of like how, I talked to a sailor and I was gruff with him when I shouldn't have been, or he didn't deserve it. That was a
Yes.
mistake. That might ruin that
Yes.
guy's day. That might make him a crappy watchstander now because his mood is screwed up,
Mhm.
and because of some mistake I made. So being able to
Yes.
deal with that and account for those mistakes and say, you know what, that's not how I should have handled that particular situation. I should
Mhm.
have, had a different plan. I should have had a different priority, whatever. And being able to continuously learn from making those mistakes. Like you don't just like
Mm.
graduate from that once
Yes.
you leave being a
Yes.
junior officer. It becomes just more important, you know. And
Yeah.
it doesn't mean I'm going to go in front of the crew and constantly flog myself and say like, oh, I'm sorry for having a bad plan of the day or something.
Yes.
Maybe it's appropriate to say like, hey brother, like I did not interact with you correctly yesterday. Let me tell you
Mhm.
why. But that's
Mm.
not how I do business. I just want to let you know, and we'll
Yes.
work on that. And
Mm.
but being able to that's the misconception, is the idea that you just graduate from making mistakes. Totally not true.
Yes, that's so true. I had another submariner here. He retired as an '05. I don't know if you know him, Commander Tony Grayson. But anyway, great, sharp guy. He's a tech CEO now. And one thing he said during our interview, I think it was for season 4, episode 130, I think. But anyway, one thing says when you make mistake, right? There are two types of mistake. One is like you're driving a car and you may fall into a ditch or something. That's recoverable, no problem. Everybody makes mistakes, so everything's cool. You just learn from it, you move on. But then sometimes you hit a pole, and then that's really catastrophic, and there is really not much we can do about that. So you absolutely have to avoid those mistakes, and not make as many mistakes as you want, getting into ditches and stuff, but learning from it and not repeating the same mistake over and over again. But definitely do not no, drive into a pole, because then that may be the end of your career. But anyway, I thought that was kind of insightful.
Yeah.
But also, it's true that you haven't been a commanding officer yet, but correct me if I'm wrong, but in the Navy, basically each unit, ship, and command, they really have 3 command billets, right? There's the CEO, the commanding officer, the XO, and then the senior enlisted leader.
Yeah. The chief of the boat is what we
Yes,
call that on a submarine.
exactly. So it is definitely being in command. You are in charge, of the entire crew and the mission. That's powerful. It looks like we have our first chat today. No, actually, no. That's someone from Twitch. Most people, they don't pay attention to what we're saying. All they do is play games. But sometimes I want them to listen. Okay, uh, let's talk a little bit about stoicism, ethics, and the warrior mindset, which is really, I think, what your book right here, which again I recommend everybody to get, Stoicism as a Warrior Philosophy. This is really, 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 really good. Let's unpack this just a little bit. So your book, it really challenges both pop stoicism and shallow leadership thinking. All right. So what problem were you trying to solve when you decided this book needed to exist?
The when I so I discovered Stoicism while I was at the academy, through the writings of James Stockdale.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, it was kind of like this private thing. It wasn't like anyone talked about it, and it had
Yes.
not blown up on the popular sphere. And it was like 10 years later that it kind of exploded
Mm,
in popularity due to a few popular writers that figured out they can make money selling books about Stoicism, and it took off. And
yeah.
it's a great philosophy, and there's a lot of value to be derived from it.
Mm-hmm.
But whenever that happened, whenever it kind of exploded in the popular space, I kept expecting someone is going to write a book about Stoicism in the military. Someone's going to put
Mm-hmm.
out some, like, Navy SEALs, how they use the
Yes.
secrets of the Stoics to be super awesome or something. And I'm like, and it's like,
Mhm.
I hope no one puts out something stupid,
Yes.
about this, because it's a very deep and layered, multifaceted philosophy that I
Mhm.
think could be uh, often is misunderstood. And
Yes.
I think I would be good at articulating it well. And
Hmm.
no one ever published that book. And so I ultimately,
Wow.
just started working on it. And I wanted to articulate the morality of a warrior and the morality of warfare
Hmm.
through the lens of Stoic philosophy, and be
Wow.
reference based while doing it. To be authentic and to actually deal with the original references. And that's my nuclear training. Speaking there
Yes.
is like I want to know what the book says. I'll
Hmm.
care about your opinion after
Yes.
we look at the book. And so that's
Hmm.
kind of the approach I took.
That
And that
that is really insightful. And what did that process teach you?
Well, I mean, it taught me that I totally did not understand Stoicism nearly as deeply as I thought I did. Whenever
Yes.
you go to try to teach something, you're gonna
Hmm.
that's whenever you
Learn.
really, really become to
Yes.
understand it. I was like, I thought I got it, but
Mm.
I totally didn't get it, or at least I didn't get it to the layers of depth that is there to
Yes.
be learned. I also, like just the process of writing a book while
Hmm.
managing a Navy career,
Yes.
that was a huge, endeavor,
That's
and
insane.
well, it wasn't
Wow.
quick, okay? Like, I mean, I've been working on this thing for, like, a decade. Like, it
Wow.
wasn't something like I just suddenly had the time to do it, and it was,
Hmm.
like, just kinda picking away little chips at a time,
Yes. Of
abusing
course.
my library card at NPS, and then
Yes.
at the
Yes.
War College later.
No, that is really powerful. That's another reason why I really wanted to have you on the show, because especially when you're a junior officer, you really don't have a clear idea of where you can take your career. I think sometimes the Navy has a need for you. We need this, and we need that. You're gonna do this and that. But many times, especially the more senior you become, you get a lot of leeway of what you want to do, which community you want to join, or the billet you are going to go for. But I think it's really important for JOs to kind of know, it is possible, right? You can be a submariner, but also be, a successful author, or share your story. Now, thanks so much for sending me the advanced copy of the book. When I read this, there's really one theme I see throughout, and something you talk about is integrity is not binary, so it's not 0 and 1. So, can you unpack what that means for leaders facing morally gray decisions today?
Yeah, when I say integrity is not binary, that's I actually put that together in an essay that I wrote when I was a department head. That it's on
Mhm.
my website. You can it was a proceedings article,
Yes.
but the idea there is that in our training and development, when we talk about integrity, we treat it like it's just this thing that obviously we have integrity. We all have it,
Yes.
because if we didn't have integrity, you would be a bad person, and we wouldn't want you here. And it's just like this black or white thing that everyone must have, and if you don't have, you need to fix yourself immediately. And we're really loath to admit that we don't have perfect integrity. An individual doesn't have perfect integrity, but I
Hmm.
think that we do a huge disservice to the people that we're developing whenever we refuse to admit that.
Yes.
And the thing is we want to be uncompromising there. We don't we and admitting that we all have imperfect integrity to some degree.
Mm.
It is tantamount to being compromised or accepting compromise where we would all very much like to believe that we're uncompromising. But
Yes.
the fact remains that no human being is perfect. And
True.
by admitting that there are degrees, there are shades of gray in the level of integrity that an individual can have and that an organization can have, we're
Hmm.
empowered to improve it, and we're
Mm.
empowered to treat it as a standard, just like physical
Yes.
fitness or
Hmm.
formality or anything else. That's what I encourage, is like recognize that
Wow.
your organizational culture of integrity is a standard, just like
Yes.
formality, and it can be improved.
Mm.
And there are techniques to do it, such as the way you do inspections, the way you communicate, the way
Yes.
that you communicate things, that truthfully communicate when you
Hmm.
can't accomplish what you have been asked to do, and not to ask
Yes.
people to do things that that they can't truthfully accomplish.
Hmm.
Things,
Yes. Yes.
all those kinds of things affect your organizational level of integrity. And I
Wow.
think that's important. It has so many ripple effects.
Yeah,
Whenever
that is quite insightful. No, I really like the way you you took it. Now, Stoicism does emphasize control over one's own responses, right? Not external event. So how does that philosophy kind of hold up in environment like the military, where you have orders, hierarchy, and lethal force intersect?
Well, I think it holds up better than any other discrete philosophy out there,
Mm,
insofar as any philosophy can be considered a warrior philosophy. Stoicism
yes.
is it. Stoicism does it better
Okay.
than any other one. Now, that doesn't mean it's perfect. I
Mm-hmm.
do not suggest that it is. It has its flaws. I point them out in the book, or what
Yes.
I think are some limitations to the philosophy, and why I don't identify as a Stoic. I'm an eclectic. I basically take the ideas as I encounter them, and if I agree with them, then I agree with them.
Yes.
I'm not going to try to believe something that I don't necessarily believe intuitively.
Mm,
But as far as discrete philosophies go, it is absolutely conducive to the military service, and the degree
yes.
to which it cultivates those virtues that you want in a warrior, such
Mm-hmm.
as fortitude and wisdom, and calm under pressure, and all those things.
Yes.
And it's not just about controlling your emotions, or suppressing them, or even just controlling your responses. It's identifying virtue and identifying being what you want to be, and
Mm-hmm.
and why you want to be that,
Yes.
and taking the correct actions to do so, which are all things
Mm.
that you want in a warrior.
That is really powerful. One more question I'm going to ask about the book. You do engage directly, with that tension, right, between obedience and moral agency. So, where should a warrior kind of draw the line, and how should leaders prepare their people for that reality?
Well, there's no easy way out. Okay. To just when I should obey, and when I shouldn't. And it's kind of a new thing in history, that warriors, down to junior enlisted guys, are taught to disobey unlawful orders. And that's a very, very positive development. And so whenever you go through ethics training at as a midshipman, or you're in boot camp basic
Mm-hmm.
training, and you say, like, well, I've read about the My Lai massacre, and
Mm.
I wouldn't want to be a baby killer. I don't want to be a part of anything like that. And they say,
Yeah.
okay, well, those are manifestly unlawful orders.
Yes.
Don't worry, that would never happen, because you would be, you're supposed to disobey such orders.
Mm-hmm.
And all of that is true, but that doesn't necessarily scratch my itch completely, because it kind of like doesn't acknowledge the possibility
Yes.
of receiving orders that are legal and yet are immoral.
Mm-hmm.
you know
Yeah.
and so, kind of the point that I'm making there is, I'm not going around telling people, hey, you should just willy-nilly pick what orders to obey. And I'm not encouraging anyone to disobey orders on moral grounds rather than legal grounds. I'm telling you that they will. Okay,
Yes.
because they're human
Yes.
beings, and they're thinking moral agents. All
Mm-hmm.
right. And so, kind of the thought experiment is if I said to some soldier, hey soldier, I need you to go bayonet that baby over there,
Mm.
and he's going to say, sir, that that's an unlawful order.
Yes. Yes.
And I could say, okay, roger that, but look, Congress just voted. Okay, and right
Mm.
here it's legal. It's now legal. Bayoneting babies is
Wow.
the law. That soldier's still going to say, I'm not going to do
Yes.
that. You're going to
Yes.
have to find someone else. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to let you do that. I'm not
And
going to let
and
anyone
and
do
be
that.
be prepared
You
to
know?
be court-martialed too. But yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and okay, you know,
Yes.
and the kind of point there in that thought experiment is that the warrior continues to be a thinking moral agent, and it's
Mhm.
not just like that's an unavoidable consequence of the fact that we have human beings and not robots. That is
Yes.
desired. Okay, it is important that the warrior continues to be a thinking moral agent and continues to recognize that,
Mm.
and identify that about themselves. And so, and kind of, I get into the theory behind all that, and how the morality of warfare works, the morality of obedience and lawful orders versus,
Yes.
illegal versus immoral. And the line's going to be different for different people, but it's important
Mm.
to recognize that, and it's important to cultivate leaders who have a strong sense of moral agency.
That is so powerful. Sorry, I was looking. I thought I had it here, but I can't find it. Oh, here it is. I knew I had it here. I read this book once a year. Have you read this book, Gates of Fire?
Oh
Uh,
yeah, that's a classic.
yeah, it's pretty impressive, especially the story about the king. I guess the last question I'm going to ask you before we go into our last segment, uh, it's about the future of leadership and warfare, especially with technology. Right now, everybody's talking about artificial intelligence, emerging tech, and all of that. So, as tech accelerates and distance, from the battlefield increases with all of the technology we have today, what worries you most about the future of decision making in war?
Well, I'll kind of tack a little bit differently. A
Mhm.
lot of people are very worried about the speed of decision making and the degree to which all the pressures lead us to become increasingly reliant on automated decision making.
Yes.
What I can say is like all the moralizing about that is way shooting behind the duck. like
Mhm.
the where we're at in warfare is just way ahead of that. And there's lots of people thinking about that, lots of people worrying about that. I am not as worried about that. I
Mhm.
ultimately think that the algorithms and the AI is still ultimately a decision making tool. It distills information quickly.
Yes.
Um, what I am more worried about is the impacts of AI on literacy writ
Mm.
large and how that is going to impact the moral development of our leaders.
Yes.
I more broadly, I worry about literacy, period.
Mhm.
Declining literacy is precisely what species-wide moral decline looks like, is declining literacy. And we're in it. We're living it. And
Mm.
the world of AI and large language models and chat GPT, I think is very threatening. I don't know. I have no idea what to do about
Yes.
it, but I think
Yes.
it's very threatening to
Mm.
literacy writ large because, academia definitely does not have their arms around it.
Yes.
And why would anyone, write a paper whenever I can have ChatGPT do it? And
Mhm.
why would anyone read a document when I can have it, spit out a summary? And then I can go
Yes.
and everyone's going to feel morally justified on and doing so because they're trying to survive. And I've got
Yes.
advanced thermodynamics over here. I'm trying to survive, and I've got this Shakespeare essay over here. Well, I'm
Yes.
going to focus on the dadgum thermodynamics and maybe not
Mhm.
develop as deeply as a human as I otherwise would.
Yes.
And I
Mm.
think that has negative ramifications that are very difficult to measure and
Yes.
anticipate. So that is what I worry about.
Well, that is definitely a problem now more than ever before. I really couldn't believe, such technology could create such challenges. And you are correct, and I love your honesty. You don't know all of the answer, neither do I. But if you could just think outside of the box, what one idea might come to mind? How you think as a society we might be able to handle this? Do you think maybe with, I don't know, AI legislation, maybe, or I don't know. I have no idea really, but
I'm
just
skeptical of a legislative solution.
to that.
I'm just skeptical of such things in general. I
Yeah.
think education models need to. Yeah, I don't think that
Okay.
any of us were really happy of the education models as they existed anyway.
Hmm.
So maybe this is the catalyst to
Yeah.
to really change the way that education works and happens. I don't have the slightest idea of
Yeah.
how they should go about it. I am not an educator. I have no professional expertise there, but
Yes.
I think it definitely needs to evolve from whatever we think is normal and right in terms of how education works.
Yeah, because one thing that did bother me too, right? I have two daughters, but my kids they really don't know how to write, right? The way we used to be. They don't teach that in school anymore. No, just so there are definitely a lot of skills that I think the next generations are just not very good at, and just as a country in general, STEM, science, technology, especially math, American kids are just not doing very very well, and that's very very worrisome. Just for our national security in the future, and even the great majority of American university is really foreign people who are. Uh, Doing all of the master's degree and PhD in technology and science. But anyway, Again, there is no I don't know what the solution is, but it's definitely something as a country
Yeah,
we
read
can.
books.
Yeah,
People
yeah,
need to read.
yes,
You know.
yes, absolutely. But although now, I mean, this is the other thing too. Like the attention span of this new generation, Gen Z and beyond, is like microwave. No, they can't hardly stay for like 1 minute on a TikTok video. Within 30 seconds, they have to go to another thing. It's like, you know, you need to like calm yourself down, you know, think, focus, but it's just completely different than what has happened before. Again,
And I mean, it's not just them. It's hard for me to read a book now.
yeah,
You know, like
yes,
whenever I have to treat it, and the way that I'm able to actually read a book now is I treat it like a workout. You know, I'm never
yes,
gonna
yes,
just read for fun, because there's so
yes,
much more other stuff
things
to
to do.
do.
Yeah,
You know, I
yeah,
have to say, like, all right, if I don't read for 30 minutes today, I'm a slob, and I'm just gonna
yes.
have to do it, just like
Mm.
going and working in the weight room, and otherwise it's just not gonna happen.
That's a very, very good way to look at it. Okay, for the last segment, let me ask you this: what is the greatest lesson you've ever learned so far, just in general, in leadership and in life? What's the greatest lesson?
I think the appeal to coherency, or the importance of coherency and eliminating contradictions. It's a very ancient idea. Um, it's captured very well. Every time I sign a book, I write this little phrase in Latin that translates to that which is honorable is useful, and
Mm,
it comes from one of my favorite
definitely.
philosophers, he's not a Stoic, but he's a Stoic adjacent, a guy named
Mm,
Cicero, who's actually a very
yeah,
important political philosopher. But Cicero took Socrates' idea, Socrates, 500 years before Cicero, is going around doing the Socrates thing, asking these
yes.
like just impossible questions, and that like
Mm,
no one can answer, and making everyone look foolish. Like, oh, you say you know what is good. Well, what is good?
yes.
What makes an act good?
Hmm.
That's the very
True.
Socratic thing to do. And but the dialogue where he talks about it, comes to the idea that that which is both honorable and useful is good.
Yes.
Well, Cicero basically took that idea and said, well, we know that, but if we really think about this, we know that that which is honorable is useful. If it is
Hmm.
truly honorable, then it is truly useful. And if it is truly useful, then it's truly honorable. And
Yes.
the corollary to that is that if it is not honorable, it is not useful.
Understand.
And that, I
Yeah.
think, is a very powerful way of summing up the idea that
Mm,
your ideas, your thoughts, your words, and your deeds should cohere. They should work
yes.
together. And it kind of like what I was talking about earlier of like, I value the accomplishing the mission to
Hmm.
support the sailor, and supporting
Yeah.
the sailor to accomplish the
The
mission. Those
mission.
points
Yeah.
of coherency. If there is a contradiction somewhere in what I'm saying,
Yes.
everyone's going to detect it a mile away. But if
Mm,
what I'm saying is consistent with what I'm doing, and what everyone knows my priorities are, then
yes.
it's a lot more believable, and it's going to everything's going to work together. you know.
That
So
is really powerful. Actually, yesterday I was on another podcast. I talked about coherency. One question that came up: uh, can you differentiate between being coherent and being a person of integrity? Coherency and integrity, are they overlap or work together?
No, I think that
Or
I think that
differentiate?
they do work together. And the way I describe it in the book, I think that this is a helpful way of differentiating between honor and integrity,
Hmm.
actually, because the military often uses honor and integrity,
Interchangeably.
as as interchangeable, and they mean
Yeah.
the same thing. Well, they kind of don't. Like, they
Yes.
can. When the military uses those things interchangeable, they're using them both as synonymous with honesty.
Yes.
And there's a lot of overlap in that Venn diagram, but integrity is coherency between thought, word, and deed, whereas
Hmm.
honor is more about acting as if I were being I had an external
Yes.
moral witness. Acting in accordance with my own internal moral witness
Mm, that's
is
powerful.
honor, as I describe it.
Yeah, I
And
think one of my mentors said, right, whatever you do in the dark when nobody is watching, just think of your grandma. What would she say about what you are about to do? And that usually keep people in the right track, in my experience,
it's
anyway.
a very, very old
But
idea.
yeah,
Like the ancient Greeks were talking about this, and
yes,
basically they had a word for it that I talk about, and we don't need to
hmm,
go into Greek
yeah,
terms here, but it was almost like an emotion to the
hmm,
Stoics, specifically, is
yes,
the caution about
hmm,
doing something, worthy of censure. you know,
Yes. Wow.
uh,
But I am really amazed how ancient script can still speak today and be really applicable in 2025 in the 21st century. How we can get all of those lessons, from ancient Greece and Rome, and being able to apply them today. It's still relevant. That's
Well,
quite
well,
amazing.
that's why we're still talking about it. So,
Yeah.
people will say that, well, philosophy today sucks, but the ancient stuff is good. It's the same reason you say music today sucks, but the
Yes.
the classics were good. Well, we're not listening to all the music that sucked from that period of time.
Yes.
you
Yes.
know, and
True.
there's a lot of philosophy that sucked back then too, and we don't talk
Yes.
about it, because
Yes.
it's not relevant to us. It doesn't speak to the truths of
Yes.
what it means to be a human being. But it's the same reason you study Shakespeare in high school, is
Yeah.
because these things speak to just eternal truths that are going to be true thousands of years from now.
Wow.
True things about what it means to be a human being on Earth.
Yes.
These ancient philosophers were dealing with the same problems that we are,
Mm.
and in the capacities that they were dealing with the same problems that we are,
Yes.
in a way that makes sense to us and is comprehensible and useful to us. That's
Mhm.
what we still talk about
Wow,
because
that
it's
is
good.
really amazing. Now, technically, we are out of time. If you have to go, I completely understand. Can you give me 10 more minutes or no?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, thank you. Man, this has been a really, really insightful conversation. I'm so glad you are here. So let me ask you this. What do you think is the secret of your success? You went from being an E1 to now a senior officer in the most powerful Navy in the world. And not only that, but also one of the most challenges billet ever, right? Being on a sub and all of the responsibility you've had. What do you think has made you so successful?
I was not ready for this. I think that so whenever I joined the Navy, my parents basically told me they were proud of me, they're glad to
Hmm.
see me doing something with my life. But one of the things they said is like, hey, if they offer you school, take
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
If they're not offering you school, seek it. But
Mm,
basically, there's so much opportunity in the military.
yes.
And if you can just put up with the suck of being in the military, of which there's
Hmm.
lots,
Yeah.
but there's so much opportunity there. If you'll
Mm,
pursue school and pursue education,
wow.
then success will come along with that. And boy, were they right. And
Yes.
so just like everywhere that I've been through my whole career, I've been just applying for like
Wow.
everything. And it's like it doesn't mean that I've gotten everything I
Yes.
applied for. For
Hmm.
every 10 things that I've applied for,
Yeah. Yeah.
I've gotten one.
Hmm.
But if I'm like constantly applying to
Yes.
whatever is available
Yes.
that it offers more education or more training, and like
Mm,
constantly seeking the most challenging training I can get,
yes.
then I'm gonna, uh,
Wow.
just so many opportunities have opened up from that
Yeah,
that
I think that's
MO.
definitely a master key of success. That's what I was trying to say earlier for the JOs listening to us now. In the Navy, for sure, there are so many opportunities. You can take your career any way you want to. But the thing is, you kind of have to have some idea of what you can become or which opportunities to take advantage of. Because unfortunately, many sailors, they just even don't even know all of the benefits that are available to them through the VA, even mortgage, education, and all of that. I guess what I'm saying is, take full advantage of the benefits that Uncle Sam puts before you, because you can really make your career whatever you want. That is so powerful, and something my godfather used to tell me, right? In education, nobody will ever be able to take that away from you. So it's definitely a worthy pursuit. So as a leader, we know that leaders are learner. What are you learning right now? What are you into?
So we talked about reading, how it's hard to read a book now. So after finishing authoring a book, I
Mm,
realized that it had been a really long time since I've read a book, like just to read a book from cover to cover.
mhm.
It's always been, supporting writing somehow. Right now, I'm reading a biography of Voltaire.
Oh, Voltaire.
Who was
Good.
he's just a philosopher from, kind of
Français. Yeah.
right before the French Revolution.
Hmm.
And it's interesting. The real point though is kind of like getting back into the routine of reading. Like that's what I'm learning, is how to
Yes.
read a book, and realizing and acknowledging that it's freaking hard.
Mm, yes.
And
Yes.
it requires routine and discipline there.
Mm.
And there's other things I've picked up from, just reading Voltaire's life. I thought I admired him a lot more than I do, and I'm reading him, and I'm like,
Yes.
man,
Yeah.
a lot of ingratiating to a court and kind of treating, high level conversation is really just this luxury for rich people, and like,
Yes.
uh,
Yes.
but
Les Français. Yeah.
yeah.
But one other thing I do, I learned that from Tony Robbins. He calls it net time, no extra time. Is books on tapes. I really love those when I'm driving, working out, or doing something that doesn't require me to use my brain. So I read a lot.
Oh
That
yeah, yeah. Audiobooks are great. Yeah.
yeah. And so, how has failure shaped your life?
I think that dealing with being able to recognize that I have made a mistake and
Mhm.
acknowledge that
Understood.
and learn from it
Yes.
basically is a skill. Okay.
Yes.
And not ruminate on it and not
Hmm.
treat it as this thing where I'm going around flogging myself for the
Yeah.
rest of the time. Instead saying like, okay, well, we're not going to do that again. you
Mm.
know,
Powerful.
but it's kind of one of the ideas within Stoicism that
Yes.
I exist as a deciding moral agent. I exist in the present, which means that past me is almost a different person. Like
Mm.
whatever that past Will Spears did is so beyond my power, beyond my
Yes.
agency. There's nothing I can do about that. Now, it
Yes.
might inform my appropriate actions today. It might, I
Hmm.
might have a debt to pay. I might owe someone an apology, but that
Yes.
is not me. I am
Yes.
me in the present,
Mm.
and
That's powerful.
so that has definitely so again, like learning how to
Yes.
deal with mistakes and not ruminate on them has been
So
very
what I
helpful.
really love about Stoicism is it's really a different way of looking at things. And a lot of those thoughts, I mean, I don't believe everything, but a lot of what they say is really useful, therefore honorable, because it could definitely change your perspective and literally change your life if you put it into practice. Because so
Yeah,
many people are kind of stuck in the past. Yes, you've done something wrong, but everybody makes mistake, everyone. So if you can learn from it, and then fail forward and don't let the past define you and who you can become, I mean, that is huge.
yeah.
Uh, wow. Okay, so let me ask you this then. If you could choose three people, they could be alive, dead, or even mythical figures, to have dinner with, who would you choose and why?
I think, well, one of them would be my favorite, Stoic philosopher Epictetus.
Hmm.
Another one would be my favorite non-Stoic philosopher Cicero.
Yeah.
Just because I've read their stuff so much, I
Hmm.
just want to hang out with them and
That's
see
cool.
see if they're the way that I think that they would be. And then
One
I
more.
really admire the naval figure James Stockdale.
Just
And
like, yeah.
reading his writings and
Learn a lot.
studying him, he was kind of my introduction, and he was kind of like my
Yes.
first real military hero
Hmm.
as a midshipman. And
Wow.
so I would really like to have met that guy.
Powerful. Is there one book you would recommend to my audience? I know you are reading the biography of French Voltaire. Is there a book you have in mind that might be useful?
Well, a good just general book that I think is good for military leaders in particular. I know a lot of your audience are military
Hmm.
leaders. Is called The Allure of Battle.
The Allure
Uh,
of Battle. Huh.
yeah,
Cool.
and so basically, it's a military history book, but
Hmm.
it's by Cathal Nolan. But
Got it.
it gets at the idea of there being it gets at the idea of military
Mm.
genius and
Yes.
how that and it kind of like diffuses it in a lot of ways, but
Hmm.
also how that idea of military genius and kind of the romanticizing of
Position.
it
Yeah.
can lead us to making poor decisions. And I
Wow.
just think it's a very valuable book for leaders to read.
That's really cool. The Allure of Battle, a history of how wars have been won and lost. That is powerful, but careful worlds. Okay, I will definitely add that to our digital uh, bookshelf. Thank you so much for sharing this. I'm always amazed when I have got guests like you. You mentioned books that I haven't read yet. I'm like, okay, I thought I've read a lot of books by now, but yeah, I definitely need to pick this one up. Thank you so much for sharing that. Is there maybe like a song, a book, or a movie that would be your life's theme or anthem?
Yeah, audience, we're totally into territory that I was not ready for. I think probably the Michael Keaton Batman would have to be
Batman.
it. Yeah,
Okay,
no, like I just like
that's
that movie.
good.
It's just a great movie. I
But
don't think it has anything
okay,
to do with my life.
let me ask you, Batman or Superman? Actually, there was a movie where they were fighting each other to death.
Batman, you know,
Batman. Okay,
absolutely
okay,
Batman.
okay. All right then. All right. So, if you only had 1 day to live, what would you have liked your final contribution to be?
I would is spending time with my kids. You know,
That's
basically, I would take that time and try to, the book that I wrote is, it's dedicated to my sons, and I think that
yes.
it captures a lot of what I would try to teach them,
Mm-hmm.
and the the I would take that
Family
day
heritage.
and basically just try to pass any last little bit of because I mean they're really why I'm on Earth.
Yes,
Is
that is
you know.
powerful. Thank you for sharing. But if you had like a magic wand, you could solve any problem at all. What is the one problem you'd like to solve tomorrow morning?
Call it energy. I think that if you
Energy.
were able to have unlimited energy, I think that
Mm,
that would have so many
ripple
ramifications.
effect. Yes.
Yeah, so
Mm,
many because there's so many other things you could just solve with the energy problem
yes.
if
Yes.
you could create unlimited energy,
Yeah, I guess
cheaply.
a lot of the war we've had in the world is because of just that. So we are getting toward the end, and thank you so much for giving us the extra time. What can my audience do to kind of add value back to you?
Well, I hope that they'll read the book, and like all any author wants is to be read. Like it's not
Yes.
gonna make it's not here's a clue for your audience. Like writing books is
Yes.
not how anyone makes money. Even the
Yeah.
people who like make their living writing books, as authors, they make their money being public speakers and stuff like that. Like
Yes.
there's no money in royalties, but
Tell
I
me,
I want
how did this happen? This was on ABC News Live. What in the world?
so
Did
that's
you pay a publicist or somebody? Like, how did you do it?
That's Mick Mulroy. He is
Hmm.
he is deeply in. So he is a former very important official in the Pentagon,
Yes.
and he is deeply into Stoicism,
Wow,
and
that's
he so
amazing. That's just incredible.
yeah.
Now, you also have your website, which you mentioned, William C. Spears
Yeah.
.com, so people can go there and find out about your work and what you're up to.
Yeah, and that's just basically like I hang some essays there and other
Okay,
articles I've written and stuff like that.
very good. Wow,
But
that
I would
is
love it if people would read the book, and I'd love it if they would leave
yes,
reviews on Amazon. I can't get anyone to
yes.
review the damn thing.
Well, actually, I am going to undo that. Yeah, I guess that means Amazon's gonna force me to buy it again. I really appreciate the free copy you sent me very much. I appreciate it. I will take care of that because I think it can definitely make a big difference. Okay, is there a question maybe I should have asked you that I haven't got a chance to ask you yet?
I don't think so. I think we hit them all. With the
Fantastic.
what movie would define your life was going to be it. But
Yeah. All right. So to end, let me ask you this very crucial question. If you could go back and give a piece of advice, right, to your 17-year-old self standing at the edge of this incredible career you've had in the Navy, what would you say to 17-year-old William? Or I guess maybe it was Will at the time. What would you tell him?
yeah, buy Apple.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I more seriously, read more.
Read more.
Read more. And the all of the benefits that have happened in life.
Yes.
So many of them have been the result
Through
of
reading.
things I've read.
Powerful. Powerful.
Literacy in general is just kind of your key to humanity's wisdom.
Okay. All right, we are getting to the end. This is going to take less than a minute. It's going to be lightning round, so don't take too long to think. Really quickly, whatever comes to your mind. What is one word that defines great leadership? One word.
Integrity.
Okay, morning routine or practice that keeps you grounded.
Uh, my workout,
Very good.
physical workout.
Book or quote that changed your life.
Epictetus discourses.
Yes, that's powerful. Okay, who inspire you most today?
James Stockdale.
Very good. A leadership habit you refuse to compromise on.
Being personable and dropping the shield, dropping the formality,
Yes.
and basically talking to
Yes.
other people as a lot of people will say, like, as an officer,
Hmm.
you've really got to,
Yeah.
keep the boundary, keep the shields up, and
Hmm.
like, nope, not me. That works for some
Basically,
people, that not me. I'm gonna talk to people as a really
keeping your ego in check. That's beautiful. Okay. What is one question every leader should ask themselves frequently?
Am I doing the things that what kind of person do I want to be, and am I doing
Hmm.
the things to support that?
Wow, that is powerful, powerful. All right. So, what did you want to be when you were a kid?
Um, I at various points I wanted to be a DJ, a
Wow.
inventor, a writer. And in high
Okay.
school I wanted to be a writer and I wanted to be a
All
philosopher. And
right.
no one was going to pay me to do
Well,
either one of those things, and so I joined the Navy.
well, you are a writer, you are a philosopher, and you are a warrior. So you've accomplished it very, very well. All right. Three adjective describing you as a child.
I'm sorry, say again.
Three adjective describing you as a child.
Uh, Precocious,
One more.
smart aleck,
One more.
and energetic.
As an adult.
Precocious, smart aleck,
No. Okay. Let's change. All
chill.
right. Pretty much the same. All right. The very, very last question, and this is it. What is one word that represents our shared experience on the Leadership and Success podcast today? One word.
Interesting.
Okay. And I'm very, very grateful. Thanks so much, Commander William C. Spears, everyone. Really appreciate you sharing from your experience. And I'm really hoping the GEOs are listening and taking notes, because you've really shared a lot of hard-learned lessons that you really cannot get in a book. You have to live it. So thank you so much, sir. I appreciate that.
All right. Thank you very much, BZ.
All right. Wow. All right, everybody. This is it. This is the last podcast for today. Again, many thanks to Commander William Spears. And just to remind you that tomorrow I will have an interview with a award-winning CIO from Silicon Valley. His name is Lee Jones. He's going to be here. He's a global system builder, textured, and calm under pressure is his mark. We're going to be talking, going from legacy to resilience. And then on Tuesday, I have the privilege and honor of interviewing Admiral Melissa Burt, United States Coast Guard JAG. She just retired recently. She's principal, strategic, empowering, and we're going to be talking about leadership at the intersection of law, trust, and national security. I don't know what can be more timely than that. And then on Thursday, I will be speaking with Charlie Wetzel. He is a master craftsman, faithful steward, and a multiplier of impact. For example, he's been the writing companion of John Maxwell for more than 30 years. John Maxwell has written and been a number one New York Times best-selling author for almost 100 books now. But Charlie is really the writing companion that made that happen. And then on the same day, I will be also speaking to Tambra Ray Stevenson. She's a food justice visionary, cultural engineer, and scholar practitioner working on her PhD now, but she's also the founder of Wanda. And she has written the best-selling book series for kids, Wanda. And we're going to be talking about leadership with nourishment. And the last interview I have confirmed, I believe that's going to be on Sunday, will be Daya Ramesh. She's a cybersecurity leader, founder, operator, and mentor. We're going to be talking about cybersecurity being existential. Actually, I just confirmed yesterday, I'm going to be advertising it soon. Lisa Fent, she's really big in the mentorship space. And then also Commander Erica Dobbs, US Navy retired. Okay, so that's what I have for you. And I will also be back for another special edition of the book of Proverbs. I start this every year. This is the first time I'm doing this publicly on LinkedIn. It's not religious at all, but we go for ancient wisdom, mentoring from the book of Proverbs, ancient wisdom and leadership lesson. So we did chapter 4 today. We're going to do chapter 5 sometime tomorrow. And we're going to do this until the end of the month, looking for those gold nuggets, the wisdom and the insight that is still applicable today, even though this book was written more than a couple of thousand years ago. All right. Thank you so much for watching the Leadership and Success podcast, and I will see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Leadership and Success podcast with your host, Coach BZ. If today's episode added value to your leadership journey, be sure to subscribe, share, and join us again for more wisdom nuggets on how to lead better and achieve greater success. Remember, leadership is the most critical skill of our time. The world will always need leaders to inspire others, drive innovation, and execute meaningful strategy. So why not count yourself among the bold leaders shaping the 21st century? Until next time, stay inspired, stay committed, and keep leading with excellence.